Continuing with our programming stages, we've covered 3 so far. The stage of requirements, which we call specification. Then we also looked at design, and finally we looked at the coding phase. So let's go further by looking at the remaining phases. The next phase is a phase of testing. Testing is a process of verification. We created requirements, or we came up with a specification document in a first phase. And we used that requirement document to come up with a design and to develop a software or a program. Now, how do we know that what we have built is actually the right thing? How do we know that what we have built has no errors? Then testing is necessary. So with testing, we are verifying, have we built it right? Or have we built the right thing? So we answer questions such as this through verification and validation. So it's a verification stage of whether the program created meets the requirements, and if there is any deviation or errors, or what we commonly call bugs in the software, are actually uncovered in this stage. And this stage, we also commonly call it a debugging stage, because errors or deviation from the requirement in programming are known as bugs. So to debug is to identify and remove errors from a program. So usually a tester will develop test cases, will come up with different cases to be tested, and those test cases will be presented in a formal document which we call test plan document. So the output, or what we call a deliverable under testing, is a testing plan document, which has got all the test cases and all the necessary things that should be put in place in order for the testing to be done. It's also one of the lengthy phases, and in most cases this one spans across many stages. So testing phases, or testing, is not necessarily starts immediately after coding. Even during coding you do some testing. Sometimes even at designing there's a little bit of testing that has to be done to make sure that what you are designing is actually reflecting the requirements. So you do also validation and verification. So it's a lengthy and tedious stage. There are different testing strategies or types that can be done. Usually we have unit testing. This will be maybe common to the programmers, for we use unit testing to test the component that has been developed, the small component of a program. A program may have so many components, so you have only one component, and once you have finished developing this component, you do some unit testing. Then you have integration testing. When different components have been put together, you want to see if that integration of components, or if that joining of different components together are not bringing in some problems. Then you have acceptance testing, which mostly is done by the users to see if this will be acceptable product, if a user will be happy that the requirements that he presented have been addressed in this software. So these are some of the most important types of testings that may be done. So this can be done by programmers, especially unit testing, or can be done by professional testers. We have people who may specialize in testing, and the testing can also be done by end users of the program. Apart from testing, we have another phase. We call it a documentation phase. With this phase, we want to write documents that will support the program for the program deployment, future references, and the program readability. So this is a phase where you are writing documents that should be used for such purposes. Deployment of the program, you have to have a more or less like a manual that should be followed, detailing how the deployment should be done, future references, and program readability, and even the program usage. So different documents are written. We have technical documents for technical people. They use these ones as a reference for deployment, a reference for maintaining the program or upgrading the program. When you want to upgrade or to address new requirements, you use these documents to see how the program was done or was developed and how you can modify that. So another type of documentation or documents written is what we call user documentation or user manuals, which describes the operating procedures for the program. So this is to tell the user how to use the system. So we need to take note that if we compromise this and come up with a poor documentation, it means we are also compromising the success of the program. Sometimes we may have a very good program, but because of poor documentation, maybe poor technical documentation, when new requirements maybe arise, you may fail to upgrade it because there is no blueprint which you can use as a reference point. So documentation may not be done as a separate phase. It may be something which is ongoing. Maybe from requirement phase, you can be creating the documentation to the end of the program. Then we have another phase which we call deployment. You've written your program has been tested and is working perfectly. You've removed all the bugs or what we call errors. Now you are ready to transfer or to give this product to users, to give this program to users. So that we call deployment. So there will be a technical documentation that can be used to achieve the deployment phase. So deployment involves preparing production environment. When you are creating your program, you are actually in a development environment. Now, when you have tested everything and the program has passed all the tests, you take it from a development environment into a production environment. These two environments are different, and the first thing to do is to prepare the production environment so that it can actually handle the program which is going to come. Then you do the installation. You install the program on user's computer on the environment that you have prepared. Then you provide user training. How users should use the program. And the deployment, there are different strategies of how you can actually deploy your software, because in most cases you may have some other existing software in use or some other existing systems in use, whether manual or electronic. And when you are coming up with your solution and you want to install it as a software, you have to follow one of the different strategies that are out of there. The common one is direct cutover, or I mean one of it is direct cutover. And you are asked as a student, as activity 1, to actually read about different strategies which are there on deployment. Try to understand them. Try to write some few notes about maybe a paragraph on each of these direct cutover and other strategies that you're going to find. The last one is maintenance. You have a software, it has been handed over to the users. That's not the end of software life cycle. You have handed it over, but now it has to be supported. So the support phase is what we call maintenance phase. A system as the system is being used, there will be some bugs that may appear. We of course we've done some testing, but you may miss some bugs which will only appear when the system is in a production environment, when it has been handed over to the user. So there will be those bugs appearing, and of course new requirements, business requirements will change. So there may be a need to upgrade our systems. For example, maybe tax rules have changed. Previously, for example, we are using 45 tax-free band for maybe salaries or incomes, but now it has changed to 100,000. So this has to be reflected in a software. So these are new requirements that may arise from the users. Sometimes users' environment may have changed. Not necessarily your software, but maybe the environment or the requirements of the software, but the environment has changed. So your software has to reflect that as well. So maintenance is the most costly phase. It's a very difficult and boring phase that requires highly skilled and experienced programmers. But in most cases, we find companies giving this phase to unexperienced programmers. But this is so crucial. There are 3 types of maintenance: corrective, perfective, and adaptive. And I would like you to read more about this and try to understand how they differ. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. This marks the end of unit number 3, programming phases. Thank you.